Okay, we are live on YouTube.
Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. I hope everyone enjoyed their holidays, and I hope their 2026 has started out very well. We are, well, it is January 8th, and this is a Zoning and Land Use Committee meeting, and we are continuing the discussion about 9201 4th Avenue and the rezoning request from a C8-2 to a C4 4D. We have the applicant here on Zoom, Tim Zis and his team. Thank you all for being here again. I know we have some questions. I will turn it first to the committee if anyone has would like to start with the questions. Otherwise, I have a list. Doris, are you raising your hand?
Oh, Doris, you're on mute.
I read an article recently about a development in Greenpoint. It's a large project, but it's called Monitor Point. And after negotiations with the community, they increased the affordable units from 25% to 40% of the units. And that was one of the things we had discussed in the last meeting, was if there could be more affordable units.
Thank you, Doris. Yes, well, I had read that article when you sent it out. Is there anyone from the team that can answer that question? I know we have been very concerned about the availability of more affordable units, particularly in CB10. Is that a possibility?
The model as it stands today is, I don't know the exact number. George, the architect, can comment to the precise number, but we're doing the 25% affordable of the total unit count.
It's approximately 24 units right now out of the total of 97. But we note that the majority of them are really large units, 2-3 bedroom units. You know, there might be flexibility if you were to increase the unit count and make them smaller, could maybe potentially pencil out to providing more affordability. But here, you know, Tim is providing very generous family-sized units, and 24 of them would be permanently affordable.
Yeah, so it's 5 1-bedrooms, 15 2-bedrooms, and 4 3-bedrooms for affordable.
Would you please repeat that? I'm sorry.
You have 5 1-bedrooms,
Okay.
15 2-bedrooms, and 4 3-bedrooms as affordable units.
Okay.
If
So
you wanted the total again, it was 19 1-bedroom, 62 2-bedroom, and 16 3-bedroom.
For the whole building.
Yeah.
right. Okay. But if you were to attempt to create more affordable units, you would have to reduce the size and reconfigure some of those units. I mean, is that a realistic?
Even though that from the architect's perspective, he could reallocate the square footage and create more units. The model itself, for us to be able to build this, it works best on that mix of units. Now, also, what we have gotten back is that the need, we're not doing any studios, for example, that the need is substantially for 2-bedroom units. Affordable. We have some singles, and we have all 3-bedroom units. So we're trying to answer to the need for the larger units. They just don't exist.
Okay. All right. Would anyone from the committee like to follow up? No. I wanted to, the committee can also ask questions, but I just wanted to address the rezoning request. We talked about this the first time, and I understand that city planning actually encouraged you to request the C4 4D. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, and the original, I think because I asked you if you would consider it an R8A with a commercial overlay, and was that part of your consideration initially?
I believe our first meeting with city planning was with the R8A with a commercial overlay. And in subsequent feedback, they suggested the C4 4D. Although, you know, we don't need it for our development. Our development does obviously comply with that district as well. It is the same, it's equivalent to the R8A. So we didn't have a problem, you know, moving forward with the C4 4D, and from a land use rationale perspective, for the uniqueness of this block and the commercial nature of the block, you know, and then up and down the Fourth Avenue frontage, in addition to the Fifth Avenue frontage of this block, it does make sense to continue with a commercial district, which allows for increased commercial square footage. For instance, if you wanted to do a second floor commercial, you could here, but also allows for the residential use and importantly, the affordable housing. So it didn't affect our development at all. Our development can still fit within that district. So we moved forward with that.
Is there a cap to the amount of commercial space or even a minimum that you will have to have in there? And will that balance ever change? You just mentioned that there could be a second story commercial, and if that were the case, does that change your mix of units?
Well, I mean, the whole building could then honestly be commercial. There's no minimum amount of commercial. There's no maximum amount of commercial except for what the district allows. So you could do more commercial and then it would decrease the residential.
That is not your plan.
No, it is not. What we plan to do is exactly what's been being shown and exactly what Tim wants to develop.
Okay, but you know, the committee, we always recognize that if for some reason the building were to be sold after the rezoning, then.
Of course.
Yeah, okay. Did city planning give you a sense of why? I mean, I know you just said that they wanted to keep commercial,
Mhm.
the option for commercial, but in terms of a
Mhm.
broader vision for that area, is
Mhm.
there a reason? Did they give any indication?
I think it is more about the broader vision, because if there was any other, you know, rezonings along this area, I think they would prefer to see C4 4D again to allow for increased commercial development in an already commercial corridor. So while that would allow for residential use, which is a goal of the city, it would also keep the commercial character of the area.
Okay, I am persisting with these questions because I know some of the concerns, probably a good portion of them have to do with the potential of having, I know you mentioned a supermarket. I also understand
Mhm.
that anything can happen between now and the building of this building. And a lot of those concerns were about the increased traffic, the in and out of the cars. Committee, you can add to this, but that's why I was hoping that they would consider an R8A, but committee, any input here? Any questions regarding this? Doris?
It's still not clear to me why any rezoning there for one lot is not considered a spot zoning, which city planning does not allow.
So here, just because this lot has 3 street frontages, it's very unique. It can stand on its own in terms of a land use rationale and the uniqueness of this block. Instead of rezoning the entire block here, which continues to get more narrow and more narrow, this site is a little unique and it's part of a, you know, it's connected to the existing R6A and R7A to the north. And it has a land use rationale here to be both, you know, have residential use with wide street frontage, good access to transit. Our train is right there. That the rezoning area did not really need to be expanded to justify the upzoning and change of use on this lot.
That still doesn't answer my question. Why isn't it considered a spot?
Because it has a
It's still-
strong
you're
land use
only rezoning one
rationale
lot.
to stand on its own.
Okay.
Inquiring why it's in the best interest of the community to change this from commercial to residential.
Normally we just have the committee questions, but as we are quickly, I mean, I think the answer to that question would be that the city is looking to build more affordable housing, to have more affordable housing available. And both, but that's a very long discussion that came under City of Yes as well. But we'll open the questions later to the public. This is committee. But Does the committee have any other questions? Different, okay. Here,
In the anticipated affordability chart, for the non-income restricted apartments, why is there an eligible income limit? I mean, does that mean someone who makes $250,000 could not rent it?
No, there's no income eligibility requirements for the market rate units.
Because it's down here in what was given.
what page is that?
It's 17. Okay.
Oh, Kevin, I think they're asking questions about the racial equity report.
Well, this seems to show what would be restricted, how much you could make in order to get the low income rent. But I don't understand if there's no income restriction, why you have a maximum amount.
That would only apply to the MIH units.
Okay, so that's an error in this thing, in other words.
Well, what you're reading is actually the data from the racial equity report, which is area wide. But there are no income restrictions would apply to the MIH units only, not the market rate.
Okay. This seems to show that it does.
Yeah, it just, thank you for the clarity on that. I wanted to go back to a question that I had asked at the last meeting, and Tim answered it very well regarding the increased loads in sewer. And his answer really spoke to the very substantial infrastructure of the existing building. But my question has more to do with what's happening on the outside and whether or not you've had a discussion with the DEP and whether or not the area with, you're putting in so many new units, can the area tolerate greater loads?
Kevin, is that something you could?
And if you don't have an answer, have you spoken with the DEP or can we get an answer?
So, you're on mute, Kevin.
You're asking about the difference between sewer loads from a commercial building versus residential requirements?
Yes.
So I would say they're generally comparable. The difference here is there's a lot more controls that can be put on the building in terms of emissions, low flow toilets, low flow fixtures, automated, fixtures. There are Energy Star rewards for implementing such things, and obviously they help keep unit costs down. So they'll be comparable, because you imagine a commercial building like this, where there may be cafeterias and offices and that sort of thing. There's a lot of individualized waste that goes there. So very, and we do for this, given the building size, and I'm sure this board, from an environmental quality review standard, the loads that are projected from the building are de minimis in terms of what they consider an impact going into the sewer system or a treatment facility, but they are going to be comparable, if not less in some cases, in terms of the utilization.
If I may,
Baths, showers, dishwashers, laundry machines, none of that happens in the.
If I may add to what just Kevin mentioned, keep in mind the existing building can be, and portions of it was used as a medical facility with heavy plumbing and redundancy on sinks and toilets. In addition, you had an operating restaurant in the lower level. So although we have not reached out to DEP, the current use of the existing building, had it been put back to service as a medical building with a restaurant, at least from what our MEP told us when he looked at the services coming in and he found them sufficient to service the proposed building, is that the output of the existing building fully occupied for what it is, medical and restaurant, would outproduce what the residential units would.
and had you considered the number of residential units that might go there, considering this is an upzoning, that you're speaking about the
Yes.
existing structure?
So he was speaking to, we evaluated the systems, he was speaking to the proposed plans that we have put before you.
Okay, and also considering the mix of residential and commercial, I presume.
Again, the commercial, as we stated, is a portion of the first floor,
Right.
which will be just about 14 to 16,000 square feet. We'll see what loss we'll have at the ground level. And yes, that would be, even if it is a supermarket, and we don't know that for sure, it may end up being dry retail. If it's dry retail, you have essentially one bathroom there for the staff. But worst case scenario, whether it's a supermarket, it's still lower than the output that the lower level restaurant had at the time.
And I can also add to that. I mean, I can follow up on this. You know, generally in New York City, commercial yields on buildings and water and sewer are greater. You have more toilets per square foot. You have more fixtures per square foot. You have higher simultaneous use going on. So peak demand associated with a commercial building is generally higher. And I can provide a follow up that the same with wastewater. There's more toilets per square foot. There's more people per square foot in an office building. And this is not even going into the possibility of multiple restaurant venues or high use medical office types of uses.
Okay, and I understand that you haven't spoken with DEP, but there's of course concern, particularly in CB10, about flooding and sewer, the local recent issues
Yeah, along 92nd Street.
along 92nd Street. So that's why this is a concern.
And definitely during the time, you know, this is obviously all pre-construction, you know, at the time of permitting and sewer connection and water connection, you know, those things will have to be looked at and advised in terms of the interconnection. And a lot of these issues are obviously not in terms of the overall capacity. Sometimes they're subsurface conditions related to the infrastructure that are issues. So all of that coordination will certainly have to happen during construction.
So that's the part that I'm getting to, the
Pre-construction.
Okay, but by then a decision on rezoning would have already been made. So
I do understand that, but within consideration of the peak loading, you know, I think you're looking at a scenario here of less impact to that sewer system versus the contemplated, the existing CA2 versus what's being converted. But I do understand your concern that obviously we're going through periods where we're seeing extreme flash flooding. You know, it's a problem for beyond sort of coastal flooding and storm flooding. We've been having these incidents of like major peak hour storms. And one of the things I will say that this building will feature that current sites don't, is New York City has been very progressive about stormwater, green roof systems. So detention systems, these are required by local law that will have to be required and implemented on the rooftop. And that will, you know, certainly help with some of the impervious water flow at the top of the building. And capacity issues that might hit the system. So there's significant enhancements in the building code to deal with a new building as opposed to, you know, what you currently have.
okay, thank you.
If I may, because we have a specific experience on 4th Avenue. We developed the building for Lenox Hill MRI just a block away, and that facility got wiped out twice. So when we engage with DEP to figure out what the issue is there, and again, we haven't spoken to DEP about this particular building, so I don't want to confuse anyone as it relates to 9201. But this is a building on 403 91st Street, which we also own and developed. The feedback we got after several complaints is that it is exactly what Kevin alluded to. It's flash flooding that's really that the system cannot handle, and you get a lot of backups along 4th Avenue and 3rd Avenue. It isn't the usage or the operation of the system or the capacity of the system to manage the flow that exists or even proposed flow. So we made certain changes in that building because of the feedback we got from DEP. And we have 4 years now, the tenant, even though we had substantial rain, we never had an event again. Kevin alluded to the change of rules. The existing building on 92nd Street has no management system for runoff from rain. It gets dispersed as it's coming down. It's getting dispersed into the system. The new building will be able to manage that and assist, in fact, in preventing the backup of the Fourth Avenue system during a flash flood, because we're supposed to manage the flow into the public sewer system when you have heavy rain coming onto the building, to the roof of the building. That system does not exist today at the existing building if it was to be repurposed, and it's grandfathered. We wouldn't be required to do that.
Okay. All right, Barbara, you have a question? Thank you, Tim.
Sure.
She's on mute.
Okay.
ChatGPT agreed on the commercial usage is more than residential.
Mhm.
Just waiting for Barbara to unmute.
Okay,
Thank
I'm
you.
concerned, as a pedestrian, I'm concerned about the traffic. You all realize this is a very dangerous intersection. Buses are turning, cars are turning. How will this new development adjust to it?
I mean, it's a fully controlled intersection with pedestrian intervals on every corner. There's schools that are present in the area. I don't see this building, particularly its conversion from a large scale commercial building that has intermittent entries and exits, you know, obviously peak hours in the morning, peak hours in the PM, being any less or more impactful. But you have fully controlled, you know, area that's, you know, also has the presence of a school. I don't see it exacerbating traffic over what is present at all. And that's, you know, and we also don't, you know, from the crash data review, this is not indicated as a high crash intersection under Vision Zero. I do understand your concern, but I believe if you were to compare the trip generation and number of vehicles coming out of, you know, a fully tenanted commercial building versus residential and the presence of transit, you're going to have a much greater percentage of pedestrian, you know, accesses rather than vehicular accesses. So, you know, I think obviously, you know, operators and managers of the building, when they implement it, will, you know, should adapt and evaluate the pedestrian movements coming from their building as a responsible building manager. But other than that, you know, I don't see a greater risk or potential impact to this area. And the traffic data, although I understand it's a busy intersection, is not listed as a high impact intersection.
On the other hand, on Fifth Avenue, you're aware though that there's a bus stop and a firehouse. Will that
Right.
have to be?
I do, and it's something that everybody has to manage. Yes, it's right there. Which is, I mean, it's a common occurrence in New York City, and this is something in the lived life of the building in terms of the entries and exits from a fire, either training or an actual fire instance. You know, those are regularly intermittent. They're not that common. You know, it would probably be far worse if there were an auto body shop next door or a gas station that's going in and out. So, you know, fire, obviously a firehouse needs to be watched and looked at, but you know, this is a common issue in New York City. And I think a building like this can certainly manage that at this intersection. I would note also, as a requirement of this project, all the frontages have to be improved. So they have to basically the roadway will have to be improved. All of the high visibility crosswalks will have to be improved. The sidewalks will have to be brought to a state of good repair. You'll have to put new DOT ADA ped ramps in here. So you're going to have upgrades to the sidewalk and the road infrastructure. Catch basins that are otherwise depressed will have to be reset. So that's a requirement of a new building. So that there will be, enhancements to what's currently prepared, or at least brought to a state of good repair.
So can you remind me, please, the commercial entrance is on Fifth or Fourth, and the residential entrance will be, well, I know on the opposite side, but which is which?
So the residential lobby will be on Fourth
Fourth
Avenue,
Avenue, okay.
or on about where the entry for the underground parking is now. So just a little bit off the garage entry now. And then the commercial entry, if it's multiple stores, which will, if the market in Bay Ridge comes back and there's demand, we would love to do that and create more of a neighborhood feel. That would be our preference. Would be door entries along 92nd and 4th Avenue, so people can come in and out of retail. So if it's a single or two, the entries will probably be, again, 4th Avenue and 92nd Street.
On 92nd Street for commercial?
If there's smaller stores that promote walkability and we're talking about chopping up the space, a smaller space, yes, there would be entries along 92nd. If, as we plan it today, to possibly have one store, that entry would likely be either on 4th or on 5th.
I think there would be a great deal of concern if there were any entrances on 92nd. So that's the bridge approach. It's a very narrow street. And maybe you can envision this differently than I can, but if the bridge gets backed up, if one of the levels gets closed, or if there's flooding, then that whole intersection comes to a dead stop. And
I'm
there's no
talking about
parking there.
no, I'm talking about pedestrian entries. I'm not talking about car.
Oh,
No,
okay.
pedestrian. I was talking about storefront.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
No.
Okay,
I think the only car entry is off Fifth. Is
Okay.
that right? Yeah, Fifth.
Yes, on
Okay.
5th.
thank you. My misunderstanding, that's much better.
Yes.
Okay, so Fifth for any commercial car and cars
Oh.
entering for commercial purposes, and then residents entering on 4th Avenue.
No, cars, both uses off Fifth.
Yeah, the only vehicle entrance is on 5th, and the front entrance to the residence is on 4th.
Yeah, if I didn't say that, I intended to say that, but
Right.
thank you for the clarification. Anne?
Okay. I know we went over the plans, and I'm not asking to go over them again necessarily, but in the interest of helping us to visualize the 92nd Street elevation, where does the predominant elevation in the new scheme lay as compared to the, let's call it, short tower of the commercial building? How much forward or backward of the existing upper stories would the new building be?
So the street wall is actually exactly what the existing building is right now at 7 stories.
Okay,
So, it would be 7 stories on 92nd, and then set back 15 feet, and then rise up beyond that to 11.
so the bottom portion is at the same plane as the
Yes.
current elevation.
And on the sides, actually, it's tiered in a little bit further than it actually is right now. So on the fifth side, there would be the first level would actually be the 5th floor, and then it sets back 10 feet, and then the 7th floor, and then it sets back another 10 feet, and then it goes up after that. So there are actually 2 more setbacks than currently exist on the 5th Avenue frontage.
Thank you. Should I show does the photo help?
Yeah, on the
I could, if it helps, I could share a rendering that might be more clear.
Okay, that would be great.
All right, one second.
Okay.
Where's the share here? Okay, let me zoom in because it's kind of small. So you can see here. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, on the sides, you have more setbacks than are required
Yeah.
by zoning.
So here, the main street wall in 92nd, that's 7 stories. That's what it is now. And then it sets back 15 feet and the upper stories rise above that. And then you can see on the 5th side, those tiers I was kind of describing. So it starts at the 5th floor, then there's a 10-foot setback and it rises, and then it's 10 feet again, and then it rises and it's 10 feet again. And then the upper stories.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ralph?
Did I hear there was a green roof? And if so, is that what you're using to control the stormwater? And
Yeah.
heavy rains? So there's a green roof on all of the lower roofs also? They're not terraces for people to go out on?
All the setbacks are terraces for individual apartments. The roof is one large communal roof, and in the current plan, we have green on all areas, all the outdoor spaces.
So all of the roofs, upper and lower.
Yeah, they're not 100% green, but there is green on all the levels.
Right. And you're
They're
using-
not, I'm sorry, they're
you're
not
using it to
green
control
roofs.
stormwater?
You're required, I mean, if this for illustrative purposes, you're required by local law to either have solar or green roof.
Solar or green
Or
roof.
or a combination
And
thereof.
so
Yeah.
it would be a combination of common area and green area.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee?
And
Oh,
one,
Doris.
you say you're going to use geothermal. Have you had any preliminary discussions with the MTA on the impact it would have on the 4th Avenue station? And
I
have you
can
done any
address,
preliminary geographical studies?
yeah, I can address that. So obviously prior to discussing with DOT, you'd have to do a geothermal analysis to determine whether the soils will properly conduct the heat, or that's necessary, so that there's or that there's proper thermal conductivity. So I think that would be done prior to approaching MTA. Yeah, so if a project is within 200 feet of an MTA appurtenance, which I have had to go to adjacent construction on a number of projects, we would have to approach MTA. I would also note this project is within 90 feet of a historic location, the firehouse, and you're going to have to do optical monitoring, so vibration optical monitoring for that. As far as this goes, obviously that would be required. So we would certainly be required to go to MTA adjacent construction to discuss the potential requirements that they would seek, which would likely require optical monitoring in terms of optical vibration monitoring for that as well. So it will be done, if they decide to move forward. I think we need to do we need to analyze the soil first to determine whether or not it has proper thermal conductivity.
But I'm confused. Will you be using geothermal, or will you be considering it?
Well, it will be used if the soil proves that it has proper conductivity. I mean, Tim can discuss that. I'm assuming it could. So because it's commonly used in New York City, and this is a good location for it generally. So having said that, no, MTA has not been approached, but they will have to be, and they certainly will be, because of the adjacency of the underground subway line. So it has to be done. But at this point, there's no project. So MTA capital construction and their adjacent construction will not accept a consultation without a project that's allowed to be built, and an actual and here, whether it's foundations of the building, the underpinning or any subsurface element related to the foundation, SOE, it will have to go to MTA adjacent construction regardless. So anyway, I can assure you that will be done. But I'm not going to tell you that, geothermal is absolutely going to be deployed here, because we haven't done any geotechnical analysis currently on the site for geothermal purposes. But the first step, just as if you were to do a solar analysis and determine whether there are proper yields for a solar array on top of a building and whether that would be worthwhile to deploy, you do the same sort of analysis on geothermal.
Thank you for the explanation. Any other questions from the committee? Or anything? I can't.
No, I don't see
I'll
it.
open it to the public.
I'm gonna just stop the share.
Okay. Are there any questions from the room before I go to, I don't know who's online?
Yes.
Okay, please. Go ahead.
Sure. So I just wanted to analyze why it's in the best interest of the community to convert from commercial to residential. That's my first question. My second question is, if the zoning committee and or the city does not approve the zoning change, what's plan B for the team? Is the building gonna stay in continuous disrepair, or are they gonna move forward with a commercial repair? Or is it just gonna sit there with their fingers crossed, hoping that the zoning goes through? So right now, it's several years of an eyesore.
Yeah.
Did you hear the question?
Yeah, I was able to
Okay.
hear that, and I
Go
think I
ahead.
can answer that the first part, and then Tim can answer the second about what would happen if this doesn't go through. I think some of your arguments about the existing condition of the building is exactly, the argument for this. That building is in really poor state. It's vacant for a long time. It is an eyesore. And this would produce, much needed housing in terms of affordable housing on a very unique block with really great street frontage, and really great site access. And if you're going to put, density somewhere, this is a really great site to put it. And it would also take away, what you were describing as an eyesore to the community. Tim, I don't know what your plans were if this doesn't go through for the building, or if you would demo it, or.
Sure. So I can give some insight on the second question. Prior to us undertaking this project, to consider a substantial investment to essentially demolish the building and rebuild the residential building there, not only to address the housing shortage that exists in Community Board 10, but build something that both Community Board 10, myself, that I'm here, I'm from Bay Ridge, and my office, my staff is from Bay Ridge, something that we're proud to deliver to the community. But prior to that, we spent 3 years marketing the property to repurpose it for a commercial property, for what it is. Unfortunately, those efforts yielded zero interest in the market. And that market has clearly indicated that has left this area, because we're not the only ones sitting vacant. This is not the only project sitting vacant. In fact, we have a state-of-the-art brand new building that was built on 88th Street. And but for NYU that took the 2 floors, we have 0 offers for 3 years to lease that building that stands ready. So I would be being less than honest to say that if we do not get the residential conversion, I have a solid plan to repurpose the property. That is a market-driven and the demand for it, which does not exist. So that's the best answer I can give you on what the plans forward are, but for this proposal.
I think the committee should know what the solid plan is.
I'm sorry?
What's the plan B?
This is the plan before us. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
No, if it doesn't go through and you don't approve it, then
Well,
what are you left with? I mean,
this-
you have to look at this always.
and we do ask, but I mean, it's up to the owner. I don't know if he would sell, if he would, I mean, there are
Well,
numerous
let's
things.
ask him what
I
he
mean,
wants to do.
he's part of the conversation. I mean, Tim, do you have an answer if this doesn't, I mean, direct answer as to what you would consider if this were not to pass
I
through the
really
city?
appreciate the question, because it from the gentleman, because it highlights the need for serious consideration of this particular project. You have a history of a building that for the last 15 years, it's been in bankruptcy and foreclosure, and slowly it became uninhabitable. That isn't a single act. It isn't just this building. It's a market shift. So the answer, I'll try to give more clarity. That's why we want the board to take a serious look and give it a positive consideration to the request here because of those market pressures. We do not believe the market will turn within a year or two or three where demand for that building will exist. That's why we're here. I'm not looking to take a $45 million risk to build a residential building for grandeur because I want to build it. We're doing this to provide housing and be able to make work out this project instead of a vacant building, as you suggested, that's deteriorating. And this, at this moment, it appears this is the only path forth as far as the market is concerned, irrespective if I own it or is a different owner. Good example is the Century 21 buildings. The Gindley family is well-established, well-financed, and they run a retail business. They were not able to repurpose the buildings there because the market demand was not there for them to repurpose them. I wish the new developer well, and I hope he's able to bring new tenants to the area. We're taking the same risk here, but for a different reason, for a different purpose, and that is to create much-needed housing. That is our ask. That's what we believe in. That's what we stand behind. That is what we have confidence in today, not an office building. There is just no demand.
Essentially, what he's telling you, it's this or nothing. So he can't do anything with this building unless it's converted.
I'd like to just restate that irrespective of what the city decides, the committee will make an advisory opinion. That's what we're able to do. But city planning has already encouraged this particular rezoning from a purely commercial to a blend of residential and commercial.
Affordable housing, not 19%.
So 24 units will be affordable housing and 97 will be market rate.
Percentage is not appropriate.
So
No, I'm sorry. 97 is the total unit count.
Oh, I'm sorry. So quick math. 24 units are affordable. That's the 20%. Or the
25%.
25.
Sorry.
25.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's up on the screen. Okay. You do have another question from the public. Attendee, Victoria Hoffmo. Victoria, you should be allowed to unmute.
Hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi. It's more a commentary. I just feel very gaslit in general when we talk about adding more density and then saying it doesn't have an impact. I do go on that block often because I pick up kids from the school over there. It is very, very crowded. I wish the building were lower. That concerns me maybe more than it not being commercial. Pierre, when you were talking about affordability, I think we have to start talking in real terms that what the city has told us is that the way they're looking at affordability is what has been built new in the last 5 years in a community. They're not looking at numbers. The other thing is that we had an affordable neighborhood, still have a somewhat affordable neighborhood. So we might get 24 units and the rest is going to push the property values up. That's the inclusionary housing. I don't know how we change that, but we should be aware of that. This is making our community actually more expensive. Those are my comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Is there anyone?
There were questions in the chat here. Rain, water, and runoff at the building, what kind of stormwater hold? I think we talked a little bit about this. Will not have to tax the system. How much light will this new building take from the smaller individual homes? It's a surge that it is all a surge. It adds that is such a one event costs us homeowners way more than them. It gets backed up all day to the bridge entrance. So I think the question we've talked on a lot of that is how much light, if anyone can speak to the light will this new building take from the smaller individual homes?
Try to address that. Certainly a very reasonable question because we are adding height to the top of the building. When we do shadow studies on these types of projects for environmental review, we actually look at parks and there are no impacts from the building on parks. Now, in terms of residential buildings, you look at the volume of the building compared to what it is, and there's a marginal difference there. And you think about how shadows perform. So they move across the sky, you know, based on the season. And, you know, you're talking about, 20 to 30 feet of additional height on top of the building compared to what is allowed as a right. So that additional shadow on area buildings is going to be minimal. That's the simplest way that I can capture it here. If it was a 1-story or 2-story M11 district and you were putting up an R8A and you're going up to 135 feet, you would see a substantial difference, but not given the volume and the nature of the building and the existing zone that's present now.
Also, just one thing, the zoning code does require setbacks for that purpose, and we are exceeding the requirements. We have on the higher floors, as we discussed before, several more setbacks than required.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
No, that concludes public questions.
Back to the committee. It is necessary, of course, to give our opinion, and which will be voted on at the meeting on the 20th. So I would like to encourage a motion, please, from the committee regarding this in terms of, was there another question from the public?
Can I say something?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There's a concerned citizen, and as the previous owner of 9201 4th Avenue building, I was the previous owner. I like to object, not in verbally, but I prepared a number of reasons why these things shouldn't happen. And I want to present that letter to the board to consider it.
Okay.
Do you want us to,
In other words, we have to find out what is the character of Mr. Tipsy, what did he do in similar situations before, and how did those situations came into being to see that the whole thing that he's trying to do, he did it before unsuccessfully, and I believe this thing that he's trying to do is also going to be unsuccessful. And I want to give these reasons to the committee to at least consider it and see what they want to do.
How do we handle?
we'll accept the letter into testimony.
I don't know if we can comment on anyone's
Everyone's
success
yeah.
or failure based on the fact that they own the building. What's being presented is a zoning change, that's all. Not a success or a failure.
Well,
But that's what the comment. Yeah.
Can I present my reasons in writing here?
You can
Absolutely.
submit them, absolutely.
Okay, I want to submit.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
The committee does not have time this evening.
No, I understand.
Oh,
but I
reflect
want
on
to
that,
submit it
okay.
For later discussion, yeah.
Okay, the committee will come to an opinion this evening, but then we'll have the opportunity to review your
Okay.
submission. Okay, thank you. Is this a hand up or where?
I don't know if that's Victoria from before or.
I just wanted to add that, you're saying that you're doing more of a setback than is needed, but you're coming in asking for a change in our zoning, which we worked on very hard for many years. So it would be nice if you kind of thought about it that way with the community, that everything that you do is going to impact us in some way. It's not just a given. You're doing more of a setback, but you're also getting a lot more than what's permitted.
Thank you, Victoria.
You're welcome.
Okay, committee.
I guess we make a motion to approve it.
Okay, with.
Or deny it, obviously,
Right,
it's
that's
an up or
fine,
down
yeah.
vote.
But there, whether to approve with conditions or
I don't know what he's answered all the questions. I don't know what conditions we need.
May I?
Yes, of course.
Please.
I would say that we can make a motion to approve it, and not with conditions, but with some listing of the rationale that made this site unique. It is really not adjacent or crowding in on any particular residential streets. So I'm not presenting this as fully baked. I'm just saying I think we should approve it, but explain why this is a unique situation.
I agree with that.
Any other additions to that? No. Shall I call the question?
Call the question.
So no, let's talk about why it's unique and,
Okay.
and make the list.
So we can include it in the motion.
Oh,
I
I thought we
think
were gonna do that
so.
now. I think we would work on that, yeah.
Just make me do it, but okay.
No, I know. Stephanie, you do enough.
Because it is, I think, important to flesh out the reasons and why we considered this, I think, differently than we have other requests.
Yes.
But if I would appreciate the committee's input for that. I don't want to be the only one speaking.
Yeah.
Well, it's a blighted, unused site. It's already a huge property. It's a huge parcel. Someone's going to take it. Someone's buying it, regardless. If it wasn't Tim, it'd be someone else. And we have a project that is offering what's necessary in the community. So we have an existing site that's near infrastructure. They're covering parking. They're covering all of they're checking a lot of boxes, and they're reusing a building, or not really reusing it. They're going to tear it down, but they're reusing a site that hasn't been used in years. It's a win-win, I think, for the community.
Right. It has three faces on 3 different streets that are quasi-commercial. Even the narrow 92nd Street really has just, has become part of the bridge thoroughfare. So that's one thing.
I think it'll make that neighborhood a little walkable too.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
especially if they
it's
can
a
get
pretty
some
building.
pedestrian.
Yeah,
Especially if they can get some pedestrian on 92nd.
totally.
And on a technical side, purely technical, if I understand from the last meeting, they were reusing the existing foundations, which is going to cut back on construction time and noise and disruption.
Totally. All those piles being driven.
Right.
This
I
is a
think
big
it's a big
deal.
plus, yeah.
Big deal. And you know what? Honestly, it's a pretty looking building. It's a nice looking building.
It is, actually, yeah.
Any other additions from the committee? I will, for the meeting, I will incorporate that into a coherent motion, but as listed, I will, if you're prepared, I will call the question to approve with the aforementioned reasons for doing so. Okay.
All in
Yeah, we're
favor?
ready.
All right,
In
let's call the
favor?
question. All in favor, please raise your hands.
Oh, hold on. I'll raise my hand
This is
on
to
computer.
present the
And
main- This
Okay,
is to present to the,
to the full board.
Full
Yes,
board,
the full
yes.
board.
Yes.
Ibrahim, are you voting in affirmative or?
Yes, in favor.
Okay.
And Stephanie, part of the commentary that will accompany the motion, of course, is geared to prevent everyone else in the area from coming with a 17-story building. So there are particular reasons why it's acceptable here.
Here. Okay, I understand that the emphasis on that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, so any opposed? One opposed? Any abstentions or recusals? I don't see any.
For my opposition is that, and we've been burned in the past where we passed a zoning resolution and the property was flipped and it was completely changed. So I am reluctant if something falls through, I'm concerned about what could happen.
Okay, thank you.
Understood. Thank you.
So, motion carries. So, the motion to render the positive, opinion with Stephanie will rework the details that were raised
With
here.
emphasis as to why it's this site in particular, why we've approved the upzoning.
Right, will be presented before the full board on Tuesday, January 20th. The meeting will take place at 7 p.m. It will be at the Diker, Golf Course on 86th Street. The information, will be sent to the applicant. If someone from the team, can attend to be available just in case the full board has a question or two, that would be great. And then I guess we'll see you all on the 20th, which is
And just a quick comment about landmarking. I did receive your submissions. Thank you very much. We're going to postpone it, discussion, just because there's so much on our plates here, but we will have that discussion in the future. Thank you. Everyone, thank you for your time. Whole team, appreciate your.
Thank you all so much for your
Thanks,
time tonight.
everyone.
Your time, and
Yeah.
thank you for believing in the project. Thank you.